Hey, this is Jeffrey Pepper Rogers here with another episode of Guitar Sessions. And today I want to talk about something of particular interest to guitar players who write songs or who want to write songs. And that is to talk about a chord which can really add a lot to progressions that you play and that you write. And it's a chord you may not think of using necessarily, and it is known as the flat 7 chord, and I used it in that little piece of the chord progression from Bob Dylan's Tangled Up in Blue that I played there in the intro. And so in this lesson I want to talk about what the flat 7 is and give a bunch of examples from classic songs so you can kind of get the idea of it in your ear and in your fingers, and so it can be something you can try out in your own writing and in your own playing. So I'm not going to get too heavy into the theory, but just give a basic idea of what the flat 7 means. So when you're playing in a major key, the flat 7 is what's called a non-diatonic chord. And that means it's a chord that's not native to the key. A non-diatonic chord includes notes that are not in the major key, not in the major scale. So it kind of grabs your ear for that reason. And so the basic idea of it is that the flat 7 is a chord that's borrowed from the parallel minor key. So if, say, playing in the key of G major, the flat 7 actually comes from the key of G minor. So the parallel minor key is the minor key that has the same root, but is minor rather than major. So in G, the flat 7 is an F chord, which is borrowed from the key of G minor. So in essence, what you're doing when you use a flat 7 chord in a song in a major key is you are adding a minor color to a major key, and that can give a cool little bit of edge, a little bit of bluesy quality to what you're doing. So on guitar, flat 7 chords are really easy to find because in a major key, the root of the flat 7 is one whole step or 2 frets below the root of the 1 chord, the root chord. So I'm going to just pull up this little chart that shows the 1 chords and then what the flat 7 would be. So it's really easy to visualize if you use bar chords. So a C chord is here, a C bar chord. The flat 7 is 2 frets down, is a B flat. And there's that C. So for D, same thing. There's a D at the 5th fret. The flat 7 is down 2 frets to a C. And there is the D. In E, if I play it as a bar chord up here at the 7th fret, go down 2 frets to find the flat 7, which is a D chord. And then F, here at the 8th fret, so I go down 2 to E flat to get my flat 7, and back up to the F. Then if I go to G, I'm going to actually play the other bar chord shape down here at the 3rd fret. So there's a G major bar chord, and then the flat 7, you guessed it, 2 frets down, there's the F, and there's the G, the 1. If I'm playing in the key of A, there's my 1 chord, down 2 frets is the G, and the 1 is back there at the 5th fret. And finally B, here at the 7th fret, the flat 7 chord, down 2 frets is an A, and there is a B. So real easy to find where your flat 7 is by just grabbing the chord that's with the root that's 2 frets below the 1. So now let's get to the fun stuff, which is checking out a bunch of examples of classic songs that use the flat 7. So I'm going to pull up these charts onto the screen here. All the charts for this lesson are available over on Patreon, and as well as the same is true for all the lessons in this Guitar Sessions series, and the links down in the description. So first thing is J.J. Cale's Cocaine. So the main riff of that, if I'm playing it in E here, is just going between E and D, down 2 frets, 1 and 5 and 1 and flat 7. You can really hear the sound of what those chords, how they fit together in that little example. So next up, classic rock tune, Gloria, originally Van Morrison tune. So if we go from, if I play that in the key of E, we go from E to D, A. By number, that is 1, flat 7 is a D, A is 4, and 1. So it's 1, flat 7, 4, 1, flat 7, 4. And that is a kind of primal rock sound right there. So here's another example that uses the flat 7. This is Night Moves by Bob Seger. I'm playing it here with out of G. So in that example, I'm going 1. There's my flat 7, which is an F, to my 4 chord, which is a C, and then the F is passing again between the 4 and the 1. So this is a really common use of the flat 7, is coming between the 1 and the 4 chord, either when you're going from the 1 to the 4 or when you're going from the 4 back up to the 1. So Night Moves is really just built around that whole sound. So here's another one. You've Got to Hide Your Love Away, John Lennon tune. Also playing out of G here. So this one, we go 1 to 5. And then we have just a real quick flat 7, F, C. C is the 4, back to the 1. And then we go to C is the 4, and we have the flat 7, F. C is the 4, back to the 1. And we do that whole pattern again, and then wind up on the D or the 5 chord at the end. So here's what that whole pattern sounds like. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So once again, the flat 7 kind of paired with the 4 chord there, leading down to it, and coming from the 1. Here's an example more from the country realm here. This is Amy by Prairie League. And the main riff of this song, if I play it in A here, is A is the 1, G is the flat 7, D is 4, so that is the intro riff and also used in the verse. And then in the chorus, the flat 7 comes up again. Goes from A to flat 7 to the 4, 1 to flat 7 to 4 to the 2 minor to the 5. So for the most part, that's using diatonic chords native to the key, naturally occurring in the key, and then it throws in that flat 7 for a little extra sort of bluesy flavor in there. Here's another example. This is what I played at the top of this lesson, Tangled Up in Blue. So here, if I'm playing this in G, a lot of the verse is just going between the 1 and the flat 7. To the 4, 1, flat 7, 1, flat 7, 1, flat 7, 4. And the rest of the progression goes 5, 6 minor, 1, 4, 5, 6 minor, 1, 4, 5, flat 7, 1, flat 7, 4, 1. So the flat 7, 4 move and between 1 and flat 7 is really kind of the motif that holds that whole progression together. So one of the things when you start to pick up on the flat 7 key in songs, one of the things you'll notice is how it just can kind of differentiate a section of the song, one section from another. So you hear a lot of songs where maybe one section uses just the diatonic chords, the chords you expect to hear, and then another section throws in the flat 7 to kind of spice it up. So a really simple example of that is Angel from Montgomery, John Prine. So in the verse, it's going, I am an old woman. That's 1 to 4. 1 to 4, 5, 1. That's the verse. Simplifying a little there, but got the basic gist to that. But then when it comes to the chorus, make me an angel that flies from Montgomery. So after that verse, when he throws in that F, it really makes the progression stand out there on the chorus. Make me an angel, there's our flat 7, the F, to 4, to 1. And that comes up twice in the chorus. So, make me an angel that flies from Montgomery. Make me a poster from an old rodeo. Just give me one thing that I could hold on to believe in this living one's just a hard way to go. So at that very end, it goes back to the 1, 4, and 5 for leading back to the verse. So there's a really similar kind of contrast in Ramblin Man, Allman Brothers. So in the verse of Ramblin Man, the chords are just like this. 1, 4, 5, 4, 1, 6 minor, 4, 1, 5, 1. Those are all diatonic chords. And then we get to the chorus. Here we go. This is just like in Angel from Montgomery. Lord, I was born a rambling man. So that's 1, flat 7, 1. So again, in context to that song, that chord change really stands out because the F is introducing notes that we haven't heard otherwise, that aren't in the major scale in G major. And so that just gives a little pop to that section of the chorus, which is kind of the key part of that song. All right, and one last example I want to give is Neil Young's After the Gold Rush. And I'm going to play through the whole progression so you get a sense of how this flat 7 kind of figures into it. I think it's a really great example of what this chord can do from a songwriting perspective. So I'm going to play it in his original key of D. I dreamed I saw the knights in armor coming. That's 1 to 4. 1, 5 is an A, 4 is a G, A is a 5, 6 minor. There's my flat 7, 4, flat 7, 1, 5, flat 7, 4, 1, 5, flat 7, 4. So if you listen to that whole progression, what would have been a very standard sounding chord progression really comes to life thanks to that flat 7 being thrown in there. And that signature little phrase there, 1, look at Mother Nature on the run in the 1970s. Look at Mother Nature on the run in the 1970s. 1, 5, flat 7, and 4. So as you can see, although the flat 7 is not a diatonic chord, it's borrowed from the parallel minor key. It's really common in a lot of folk, rock, roots, country, bluegrass, a lot of styles of music. And in fact, it's much more common than the diatonic 7th chord, which would actually be a diminished chord. So you don't really hear that so often, but you hear songwriters use that flat 7 a lot, and it really brings a different flavor into a chord progression. And so if you're working on a song in a major key, look for that flat 7 and try throwing it in there, and you might find something really cool and distinctive. In particular, 2 ways you might look at using the flat 7. A whole bunch of those songs that I just played use the flat 7 in conjunction with the 4, going to the 4 from the 1 or going back to the 1. Or you can try throwing in the flat 7 as a replacement for the 5. And the other thing I should just mention is that the whole way that I'm talking about chord progressions by number here is something I really encourage any songwriter, any musician, whether you write songs or not, to do. It gives you a whole language for understanding chord progressions in a deeper way than just memorizing how G, F, and C fit together, because it tells you about what the relationship of the chords are to each other in the key. And that's that's gold as far as songwriting, to understand that, to be able to hear it and then apply it in different keys and in different situations. So once again, I'm Jeffrey Pepper Rogers, and all the charts for this lesson are over on Patreon. Appreciate your watching, and I will catch you next time.